Welcome to the bottom of the rabbit hole. Salute to you for tuning in and know you are always appreciated. Please be sure to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you do not miss out on any future yellow-pilled content. This red vs. blue video subject is by special request and is not an endorsement for either side, but it is a more advanced Matrixology topic. So if you have not already seen the Matrix trilogy, you have officially been warned. Let's go back to the red vs. blue pill proposition in the original Matrix film. You take the blue pill, the story ends. You wake up in your bed and believe whatever you want to believe. You take the red pill, you stay in Wonderland, and I show you how deep the rabbit hole goes. Remember, all I'm offering is the truth, nothing more. There's an in-depth description of Neo's specific experience with choosing the red pill in the previous Red Pill Rage video. So today, the focus will be on the very nature of the illusion that this polarizing red vs. blue pill choice creates. Blue frequency equals passing or passive energy. Red frequency equals pushing forward or an engaging energy. The blue aura energy is calm during crisis, and others rely on it for support. In this case, the sleeping human batteries of the Matrix power the machines and support a symbiotic relationship. Red aura energy relates to a connection with nature and the physical body. The red aura appears in fearless individuals who enjoy manifesting ideas in the material world. In this case, we know Neo takes the red pill. Morpheus then shows Neo the real world and tells Neo about the prophecy of the One. At the end of the Matrix Reloaded, we find out the prophecy of the One is a system of control built on propaganda.
Please. As I was saying, she stumbled upon a solution whereby nearly 99% of all test subjects accepted the program as long as they were given a choice, even if they were only aware of the choice at a mere unconscious level.
The architect explained the reason behind the purpose for creating an illusion of choice. 99.9% of the people accept the program willingly, even if the proposition of choice occurs subconsciously. However, there is that 0.1% of resistance that need to engage, a slim margin of error that seeks understanding the choice, or at the very least, wants to consciously know they made one. These are the individuals who are then offered a choice of red or blue. Selecting the passive blue puts you right back with those willing to accept the system. Taking the engaging red still keeps you a part of the system, only now you are known to the system as controlled opposition. Nearly everyone will identify with and select one choice or the other, for or against. Let's redirect your attention to another system known as the Electoral College. Okay, US presidential voting process. I still remember raising an eyebrow when they first described how this system works in elementary school. In a fair and equal democracy, everyone's vote should count equally, right? Well, that's not how the Electoral College process works at all. I'll put links in the description to a couple videos that define the Electoral College in detail for anyone who needs a refresher. And there are very valid points about the distribution of electoral votes. These are common challenges in the debate because the Electoral College counts its winner-take-all votes from each state and not from the popular vote directly, or in other words, not from all the people directly. This is the real reason why candidates spend all their time in Ohio, Florida, Pennsylvania, and Virginia. And let's be honest, Ohio shouldn't have that much pull in regards to anything, ever. But let's ignore those obvious existing consequences for a moment and take a deeper look at how the Electoral College works in the real world. The popular election for electors means the president and vice president are in effect chosen through indirect elections by the citizens. An indirect election is an election where voters do not choose between candidates for office, but elect other people who then choose. Be honest, have you ever sat and thought about who is actually voting? The Electoral College has elected the candidate who received the most popular votes nationwide, except in 4 elections: 1876, 1888, 2000, and 2016. And in 1824, there were 6 states in which electors were legislatively appointed rather than popularly elected. So the true national popular vote is uncertain there. The electors failed to select a winning candidate, so the matter was decided by the House of Representatives. So the candidates are pre-selected, the electors are pre-selected, and every century or so they go rogue. In 2000, an elector of Washington, D.C. chose not to vote, despite her pledge to the Democratic candidate. And if an elector decided to go rogue in the final hour, they are referred to as a faithless elector. While this may not happen often, it has happened. So this scenario is not only possible, but proven historically, that your vote just might not count. And please remember, we are discussing the presidential election specifically. In fact, if you hold the 5 total failed popular election results against 58 total presidential elections, there is a 9% chance that the Electoral College results will not represent the popular vote. That is a lot more than the 0.1% the architect was complaining about, and an incredibly high margin of error for something that is supposed to be both accurate and important, like selecting the President of the United States. 4 of those 5 failures are in strictly red versus blue party contests, because it has become impossible for an independent to win an election. Realistic independent options disrupt the red versus blue dynamic by replacing the illusion of choice with a true competitive environment that instead encourages choices. The Whig Party delivered the last third-party candidate to win an election, and the Whigs collapsed in the 1850s. Only a Democratic or Republican Party candidate has been president since the Civil War. I'll say that again. A third-party president has not won an election in roughly 170 years. It is impossible to win if the candidate is not red or blue. Why do they even bother letting these other candidates run? The additional parties are supposed to maintain democracy. Instead, they only sustain the illusion of choice. Removing any realistic third-party option has eliminated the dynamic of accountability that true competition creates, and allows elite special interests to control the overall narrative of both sides. For example, the right will say that Abraham Lincoln and the Republican Party ended slavery, while the left will jump to the claim that the Democrats did all the heavy lifting during the Civil Rights Movement. The Democratic South aggressively defended slavery, more specifically, promoted the expansion of slavery into the West, and that dispute was responsible for the Civil War. After the election of Abraham Lincoln, Southern Democrats seceded from the Union and formed the Confederate States of America. Fast forward 100 years after the Civil War to the Civil Rights Act in 1964 and the Voting Rights Act of 1965, when federal laws began to end segregation and restrictions on black voters were finally lifted nationally. The result was that those very same slavery-promoting, Jim Crow supporting Confederate Democrats all migrated over to the Republican Party by 1980. So to be clear here, this is not an indictment of the right or the left, but rather pointing out that historically, very extreme racist ideologies have been supported, promoted, defended, and fought for by both the red and blue sides of the fence. Raise your hand if anyone in the class knows what happened to the 2 presidents who were responsible for such radical and major changes in polarizing party politics. So in the rare event someone willing to do the right thing is elected president and follows through by making significant changes, they're rewarded with an assassination. And do not think for a minute today's candidates are not aware of that. The illusion of choice is the weapon with which a select few can maintain control over 99%. The illusion of choice is a psychological mental model. Humans are happy if they believe that they have control over their own actions and can exercise free will. If free will is deprived, or even seemingly deprived, from an individual, he or she will become resentful or rebellious, even if the choice forced upon them is identical to the one he or she would have selected of their own accord. In other words, if you do not like the politics on one side, your only option is simply to switch to the other side, because otherwise, you can't play at all. Let's dig even deeper and take a look at how the application of psychological propaganda became popularized in the 20th century. Edward Louis Bernays was an expert in the field of propaganda and known as the father of public relations. Bernays was a double nephew of psychoanalyst Sigmund Freud, by virtue of his mother, Freud's sister, and of his father's sister, Martha Bernays Freud, who married Sigmund. He took great pride in boasting about being related to his famous uncle, and his client list included major international corporations, US presidents, and even the CIA. As the leading figure in public relations and a notorious advocate of propaganda, Bernays was compared to European fascists such as Joseph Goebbels and Adolf Hitler. Bernays himself wrote in his 1965 autobiography that Goebbels read and used his books. So as you can see, Bernays did not waste any opportunity to brag about his notoriety. After the US entered the First World War, the Committee on Public Information hired Bernays to work for its Bureau of Latin American Affairs, which focused on building support for war, both domestically and abroad. Bernays referred to his work there as psychological warfare, and this work was responsible for the Guatemalan coup d'etat in 1954. During these assignments, he learned that the successful results of propaganda for a nation at war could be duplicated for organizations and corporations in nations at peace as well. Bernays was armed to the teeth with a network of journalists from well-known and reputable outlets like the New York Times, New York Herald Tribune, Newsweek, Newswire's Associated Press, United Press International, Time Magazine, and The Atlantic Monthly, just to name a few. When Bernays wanted to put a message out, it could be released through every major news outlet. Bernays' vision was of a utopian society in which individuals' dangerous sexual energies, the psychic and emotional energy associated with instinctual biological drives that Bernays viewed as inherently dangerous, could be harnessed and channeled by a corporate elite for economic benefit. Through the use of mass production, big business could fulfill the cravings of what Bernays saw as the inherently irrational and desire-driven masses, while simultaneously controlling what he considered to be dangerous animal urges that threaten to tear society apart if left unchecked. Sound familiar?
Ergo, those that refuse the program, while a minority, if unchecked, would constitute an escalating probability of disaster.
Edward popularized the idea that the masses are driven by factors outside their conscious understanding, and therefore their minds should be manipulated by the capable few. Essentially, this boils down to penetrating, dividing, and ultimately destroying those who oppose the ruling elite by way of psychological warfare. He understood the specific controlling value of the illusion of choice and literally wrote the playbook on applying this discovery. Bernays starts the book Propaganda with this: the conscious and intelligent manipulation of the organized habits and opinions of the masses is an important element in democratic society. Those who manipulate this unseen mechanism of society constitute an invisible government, which is the true ruling power of this country. Edward Bernays applied his Uncle Sigmund's psychology work to his own field and stumbled onto the exact same solution that the Oracle provided the architect within the Matrix. The architect describing himself as the father of the Matrix while getting his advice from the Oracle. In other words, the strategy is to sell a story that creates a hidden system of control. Bernays played a major part in defining the political philosophy of modern propaganda and outlined the methods to controlling both sides of the game through the media. The father of public relations didn't invent propaganda itself. He wasn't the first PR specialist, and he certainly isn't going to be the last, but he was the loudest. Bernays injected a heavy dose of psychology into the formula, and Bernays himself advised presidents. Tells us that the presidents themselves do not have power over the country, but instead, the true ruling power is with those who finance, control, and manipulate the propaganda. The people are disposable batteries for the machine. It is extremely difficult to break through to acceptance and solutions when the truth is hidden. The Matrix is glitching, but how broken is it, and why does it break? This is why I advocate and push for the yellow-pilled approach. The gold light must be discovered, investigate, deconstruct, and then get to the source of the story. Over 100 years worth of propaganda and programming won't be undone overnight. Having to choose between which presidential candidate appears to be the lesser of two evils is not a real choice. Know who you are voting for within your local and state elections, because those officials will have a direct and sometimes immediate impact on your local community. Do your own fact-checking research, especially with regard to politics, politicians, and the agendas of the mainstream media throughout our history. As long as the discussion is limited to a red versus blue debate, these systems of control will continue to exploit and take advantage of your human nature. Allow the power of truth to be your shield, and your mind will always be free. So if you don't want to waste time on red pill dummy missions, or if you believe you have a purpose greater than taking blue pill induced naps, then continue having these analytical discussions. Share and like this video, share your thoughts in the comments below, and remember, as one realizes that one is a dream figure in another person's dream, that is self-awareness.